I feel in the face of all the problems in the world impotent, and why I somehow cannot manage to transform I. Now here we get to the real problem, because we're always telling each other that we should be different. Now I'm not going to tell you that tonight. Why not? Because I know you can't. Nor can I. That may sound depressing, but I'll tell you it isn't. It's very hard. But everybody, you see, who is at all sensitive and awake to their own problems and human problems is trying to change himself. We know we can't change the world unless we change ourselves. So when we are aware of the ego I, we are aware of this chronic tension inside ourselves. And that's not us. It's a futile tension. So when we get the illusion, the image of ourselves, married to a futile tension, you've got an illusion married to a futility. And then you wonder why I can't do anything.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's go over the major pivots, what to expect for Bitcoin in the upcoming week, okay? Start with the top-down analysis with the daily, okay? Current longest overexpanded period is currently set to the 125. So, if we load a 125 band up on this chart, it should accurately represent our pivot for trend. So, thankfully for that, we are still above that pivot, and we are still technically in a state of defined trend. So, with that in mind, I'm going to turn this music down a bit. Actually, it's good. If the music is too loud, let me know. Anyway, as long as we're above that pivot, Bitcoin's in a defined state of trend. And I'm happy to say, quite clearly, the pivot has been heavily respected. So every time we approach this pivot here, it has bounced rather successfully. And that is sustained and defined. Well, we don't really see any change of pace until we actually cross below that pivot. There's no reason to be bearish until this pivot is crossed, okay? That's the number one priority. All right, just finding the swing lows of our long positions. However, 4-hour chart paints a bit of a different story, because our longest overexpanded period here is also 225. 225, not 125. Beautiful. And we actually have that bearish mean reversion condition activated. So we're actually going to load up the 1/10th period so we can get a clear reading on this. Okay. The 22, the 225, and the 22. Take a look. Beautiful. Very nice. So, technical short entry for a mean reversion condition is the 1/10th period CCI roll down, or the tag of its relative 3.2 standard deviation. So, technically this is a short entry right here, right now, this very second. We have a broken trend line people are looking at, and you can even see the volatility pop resulting from it. That's pretty interesting. It's a clear understanding of how little liquidity there can be in this market at times. We have a trend line with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candles of contact. And, as soon as we get a candle above, well, that's a very reactionary move now, isn't it? And that is the volatility pop to the upside. That is typically good for a short entry to the mean. I'm just not inclined to debate against longer term trend, if you know what I mean. So right here, we can actually have a pretty good short entry. Just stop loss above the local high, although admittedly, stop losses above the local high are pretty poor performing, to say the very least. At least during Bitcoin, since it's usually where the most obvious stop losses are, and that's how they're most frequently scooped up. So yes, you can technically enter short here with an expectation of reverting to this mean. That's quite the position. Volatility is really high on Bitcoin at this current time. That's a 20% drawdown. You know, if you want to try that with a small 4% stop loss, that might work out. Obviously, that's going to need to be almost unleveraged, because 4% drawdown on leverage, your portfolio is going to disappear. So, definitely more inclined to say attempt to find the swing low, scoop that up, and take the long rather than attempting the short. Okay? Because I personally don't believe it would be worth it to actually bet against that long-term trend. Okay? Okay. See if I have anything special on the 1 hour chart. Hopefully you have an upward expansion based on this newest trend here. We'll take a look. Just from the regular wave PM, it doesn't look like we have anything significant. No, and it's already tapered off as well. 15-minute chart, I don't think we're having any significant readings down here either. The short entry is good on the 4 hour chart. There's just very little to support it on the lower time frames. So, you know, if we had a more explosive move to the upside, I'd be more inclined to take that position. And, you know, getting that view in the trend line down here is really, really aesthetic. So you can quite clearly see the volatility pop to the upside after the trend line is broken. Right? Predicting liquidity. You know, one possible strategy you can actually pull off pretty well is placing a market buy order just above the trend line with a conditional stop loss just below it, and then having an immediate take profit just a few percentage points above. You can actually bet on the bullish volatility pop on an upward broken trend line, or a bearish volatility pop on a downward broken trend line. Okay? Well, let's see if we can find another example, okay? Like, here's good. A lot of people aren't comfortable drawing broken trend lines, if that makes sense. You know, everyone's so inclined to believe that trend lines never break, or at least they draw them that way. Right? Soy sauce in our Discord channel is currently drawing the trend line like this. Right? However, what if we created another higher high, right? What if we had a volatility pop to the upside once more? Would we be inclined to move that trend line up again? Right? No. Keep your broken trend lines, folks. Because more often than not, those broken trend lines can actually remain decent pivots. All right, okay, watch this one. Here's another good trend line. How many points of contact do we have here? I'll make sure that's clean as possible. Looks good to me. All right. So in this scenario, each time you see this, you just place a market buy order just a little bit above the trend line, and you just immediately have a closed sell order just a fraction of a percentage point above it. Okay? It's a good scalping strategy. A bit simple, but it can work. And managing your risk on it can be difficult. Because either you're going to need to have the right kind of stop loss order, or be there to babysit it. I'm happy with that. We actually have a mean diversion just based on this little upward expansion here. We have no volatility overhead. Yeah, whichever way this breaks, I would be inclined to take that position. If we see any kind of bearish confirmation here, I am going to be trying a short. Okay? Because we have that 4-hour signal, and if we have a lot of compression here on the 5-minute, any kind of breakout might result in significant trend. So we have a small amount of confluence, and I'd consider betting on it. Okay? I'll just pop open ACAT for a second, just so we can have a look at how this pivot is behaving. in comparison, okay? What are the yellow lines that are extended above? My Meowmix doesn't have them. You have to customly, or add them customly. You have to have the 3.2 standard deviation of whatever period you want. And then just change the color accordingly. Yeah, that mean version's already completed, which is clean. Oh, we activated the condition here and it just immediately drew down. Oh, with that in mind, I think we're done for today. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you folks later.